Good morning. I'm Mike Parrish. I'm the Agricultural Extension Agent in Dinwiddie, Virginia. And this is an introduction for new pesticide applicators in Virginia. So pesticide management in Virginia all started in 1989 with the Virginia Pesticide Control Act years ago with the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. By having this act in Virginia, it improved our products, it improved safety, it improved outreach, it improved the stewardship of pesticides. Here's a list of actually what it actually deals with, and then I'll explain a little bit what each one does. So general provisions and definitions, this is where it lays out a lot of the terms of what you'll be doing with pesticides, and then improving the label requirements. So to get a label, we've got to justify why we need the product, and VDAX and Extension work together along with our specialists, from Virginia Tech and Virginia State. It also helps with misbranding. This also kind of helps weed out snake oils, because you're going to have everything on that label that's required to tell what it does, how it works, what's the chemistry in it. What are the entry intervals, and also this reassures the user and the customers that purchase agricultural products. But this misbranding is where we're making sure that what you buy is what you get. Also, this started the whole pesticide licensing in Virginia. So to have a permit to purchase and use pesticides, and it has several different layers. But like for you, if you're a first-time farmer, you would get a private applicator's license, and that's where you would take a written exam, and then you're able to buy restricted use pesticides. And I'll talk a little more about that as we go through the talk. And then understanding that there are violations and what the penalties are. So all these were laid out in the Virginia Pesticide Control Act. It's a good thing because it helps us retain our chemicals that we have. It also helps us getting new pesticides or chemicals that we need in the industry, labeled for use. So pesticide management in Virginia is with VDAX, the Office of Pesticide Services within Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. They handle the certification process. So we work together between Virginia Cooperative Extension and VDAX. Now, VDAX other roles that they have is enforcement and compliance. So they have pesticide investigators. If you have a spill, you need to contact them within 24 hours. The sooner the better. I think that's the cutoff. They would like for it, and don't wait more than 24. If you do have a spill, you definitely need to call your EMS as soon as possible. Special projects, VDAX is constantly working on new labeling. They're working on improving the testing. They handle the testing, for certifications, especially commercial. So they're updating their manuals constantly. So they've got a lot of special projects going on. Now you see under VCE down here a little further, we have special projects. We do a lot of projects together, such as the pesticide plastic container recycling throughout the state. And so we work with VDAX. They have the funding and they have set the parameters for it, and they schedule the collections. And then locally, for a special project like the plastic recycling, the agents set up the location in their county. They set up their schedule and they collect the clean plastic containers for granulation or compaction through VDAX. So it's a partnership, with these special projects. And also VDAX does the another environmental program with the old pesticide collection. So VCE's role, I already talked about the special projects. I know I skipped to the bottom, but we also do the education and the outreach part. So we can do on-site visits as outreach, and in education, we teach the pesticide recertification programs. So we also teach, both the private applicators programs, and we teach the commercial ones as well. And that prepares you, to get your 2 years of credit by attending those classes. Pesticide use. So what is pesticide use mean in Virginia? It's the application of pesticides. That's when it's being applied. If you're a supervisor, you're part of that pesticide use because your employees work for you. So you have to supervise the application. Supervisors have to have a pesticide license also. Now, for private applicators, if you're a farmer and you get your private applicator's license, you also will be a supervisor, and you are part of that application if you've got employees, handling pesticides. So any job that's related in recommendations of a pesticide, so extension agents, seed consultants, salespeople, all of us that give recommendations about a pesticide have to have, license to do that. So as a extension agent, we have what we call a category 10, and we have to maintain that just like the applicators do. We go to training each year so that we can give recommendations on how to properly use the pesticides. And then if someone is, selling pesticides, they also have to have a special permit for that. So that they can give the recommendations themselves. And it also includes all of the routine activities that are part of a normal pesticide application. So what comes under pesticide use is mixing, loading, cleanup, and disposal. Now, we teach the correct ways to do this, but you always have your reference as your pesticide label. So the labels are always able to give you some guidelines on how to handle each individual pesticide. Pesticide application techniques are something that you need to be aware of. There's lots of ways to apply products. You don't always need a hammer. Sometimes you can use a fly swatter. So you can use a small applicator with a small amount. If you know what life cycle you're trying to take care of an insect or a disease or a pest early onset, you can do a lot more with less if you put it out properly. If you get a larger weed, it's not going to take up the product quite as well. You tend to use more product. So its timing always makes a difference, but some of the terminology for these techniques are liquid applications. So like soil injection, if you're using a broadcast applicator, like an air blast sprayer for an orchard or for pumpkins, boom sprayer, multi-nozzle, that's this applicator right here in the field with the large boom sprayer. If you have a hose application, that could be, you're doing aquatic spraying with a hose. It could be, using a pump sprayer with a hose. It could be a spot sprayer where you've got a hose that you're spraying like a fence line or tree line, trying to kill the undergrowth. And then you have wipers and wicks, like in this bottom picture here, where you have a rope applicator. Now, even under boom can be drones. Now, that's something that's coming around. There are probably going to be some, more, permits you're going to have to do and more training when you start getting into the aerial, because you have to be, trained on the operating of your equipment. Pesticide application techniques continued. You have dry applications. They can be targeted. They can be broadcast. You can use pellets and baits. So they are usually dry products. You can use a band applicator, a drop applicator, or you can use a spinner spreader. And all these things can be calibrated just as the boom sprayers can. So just know, you still need to, apply the product correctly and follow the label. Broadcast. So you have, like I said, the drop spreaders and spinner spreaders. So they are in a solid line, but they are broadcast across the treatment area. So you can get really wide, drop spreaders, and you can get spinner spreaders that can spread, 60 or 90 feet wide. But you still need to be able to calibrate those and know how much product that you're putting out. But that is a difference in the application technique. Responsibility, obligations. So Virginia certified applicators always have to follow the label. It is a legal document. You have to have your certification. Talked a little bit about how you get it. You can come to the extension office and ask questions about the different types of pesticide licenses that are out there. There's several categories. Some people are going to need a stack. If you have a landscaping business and you are going to be going more than just turf and you're going to go into ornamentals, or you might be spraying right-of-ways, there is a separate pesticide application permit for all of those. So some I have that we have in classes may have up to 5 or 6 permits to be able to do different tasks, with their pesticide operation. So you can contact us, you can contact VDAX. VDAX's website does have a list of all the certificates you can get. So these certifications, you keep them by going to the classes. If you do run out and you do not get a recertification class within 2 years, you have to retake your exams. Supervised employees. So there's a stair step with this, where, like I said earlier, that if you're a supervisor, you have to have the pesticide applicators license. You need to be certified if you're going to handle pesticides, and it also teaches you how to handle pesticides safely. You have to keep accurate records. Once you start applying products, we've got record books you can get, and there are things that are required for you to have in your record books, depending on what type of product that you use. Some require more for if you got worker protection added to it. So if you have employees that are going back out into the fields that you applied, there's a lot more information that you need to document. But basic things are like the date that you apply it, the rate that you apply it, where did you apply it, and what crop did you apply it to. When you start working worker protection, there's added things like, what was wind speed and things like that to help you, because you're dealing with other direct contact people in the crop. Reporting incidents. So if you are trained, that you need to do all these things in relation to, pesticide use. So be certified, you supervise your employees, you handle your pesticides safely, you keep accurate records, and then you report all incidents. So if you have a spill, then you need to report that, to VDAX. Virginia certification requirements. A certification is required of most occupational pesticide use. It's required for all government employees that deal with pesticides. Both non-agriculture and agriculture applicators who work for hire need a pesticide license. Many others who just use pesticides for many duties not for hire need them also. All farmers that use restricted use pesticides need a private applicator's license. What is a private applicator in Virginia? A private applicator is a person engaged in agricultural production on private property, owned or rented or leased. So if you're applying it on your farm for your production practices, then you are required to have a private applicator's license. Now, this is for restricted use pesticides. So things like fumigation and air blast spraying, injection, applications, those require those licenses as well. But anyone that's doing any work, like I said, on his or her own property needs to have a private applicator license. Private applicator, producers must be certified to use restricted use pesticides. So these are the stronger products. You can see here, these are 2 different labels. Understanding the label is part of our training that we'll give you. You can look up the restricted use placard. This tells you straight up on your product that if you're trying to buy, one of these products, that you definitely are going to have a pesticide license, and the retail person will ask you for your permit. A lot of them, will have them on record for you, but you have to, show that pesticide license number if you're trying to use a restricted use pesticide. Categories for private applicators is 90 and 91. 90 is food, fiber, and forestry production. We've got a lot of farmers that just have this license here because they're working on the farms, but some are now working and raising, products in the ornamental and greenhouse production. A competency exam. So we do have an exam that you can take. It is a written test at the extension office. You can come to our office and take an exam. They are free, and you can line that up with the extension agent. I recommend that you go online and buy a study manual and you can study prior to the test. So it is a private applicator study manual. The product label, you need to know the parts of the product label. And when we teach classes, we go over these sections for you to understand, what's on a label. You always follow a label. It's a legal document. The label is law. The label has a product name, and some chemistry may have up to 5 or 6, 10 names, with the active ingredient. So you got to know the product name, but each one of those that have different names will still each have their own labeling. An EPA registration number, we talked about that earlier, that's what EPA has given that product once it's labeled as a pesticide. Then you have to know your caution words, and that tells you how toxic the product is versus poison, warning, or caution. So you need to know that. There is a precautionary section. It's pretty close to the top of the pesticide label. That covers personal protection equipment and its use, so PPE and its usage. This also in the PPE section can talk to you about, storage, and we go further in our classes to teach you about, cleaning the products, your PPEs, how to keep them safe, how to store them, which ones to use, which ones are used for what application technique. You also have a section on product usage and the crop that it goes on and its rate. So it's broken out. And a label can be as many as, 20, 30, 40 pages long. You just need to go through there and take a look. Now, I do have a pesticide label here with me, and it's kind of hard to see here, but, it's pretty small print. So a lot of them on the containers have small print, but if you'd like to go online, look up the same product, and you can view it online and read it a lot easier. But in the field, that's what they'll give you is a little booklet that's sealed in plastic or has a plastic edge to it where it can be sealed, and you need to keep that label with that product at all times. First aid and poison control is in there, so it tells you how to take care of someone that's been poisoned. It also tells you how to take care of a spill, how to store the product correctly, and how to dispose of it. So there's some very good information, on those labels. Personal protection equipment. We have respirators. So respiratory protection, is respirators, not dust masks. Dust masks are, just to keep soil particles out, maybe leaf debris, grass debris when you're mowing, helps control pollen. A respirator controls vapors and mists that are contaminated with pesticide. Full face is always better. It's a little hotter, but it provides dual protection for you because it can protect your breathing, your lungs, it can protect your nasal passages, it can protect your eyes and the skin on your face. A lot of blood vessels, in your forehead and on your face that can absorb pesticides, very quickly, especially if you're sweating. Dermal protection. The basic is long sleeves, long pants, closed-toed shoes. You'll see that on some of your caution products, where you will have something like full face respirators will be on something that's more considered poison or caution, or warning. So with caution, you'll probably see a lot more long sleeve pants and closed-toed shoes. Then specialized, where they're talking about the use and cover up completely. That's a lot of times with your restricted use pesticides, a Tyvek suit, resistant glove, chemical resistant gloves, boots, aprons, waterproof hard hats, hoods or helmets. So those are some of the PPEs that are for the restricted use. Other protection is ocular. So that's protecting your eyes. Then respirators at a full face will actually, protect your eyes. Your eyes are moist. So when pesticides get in contact with them, it's absorbed pretty fast, into the eyes, and you don't want those to be damaged. The full face respirator, like I said, does protect your eyes. Safety glasses also do too. And face shields help with splash reduction on your face. Private applicators, equipment, and, those products are very important to keep up with, but don't forget your application records. They're kept for 2 years, like we talked about in the beginning. And then USDA likes to have things like the date, the applicator information, under this application information. That would be your rate, how much in your product, location, crop size, the crop that you're putting on, the amount of acres that you applied it to, the product. We do have record books, recertification every 2 years. So if you ever have questions, you contact your extension office, or you can contact VDEX directly. Now to share just a little bit and just go real quickly over some of the PPEs while we have a chance to cover them in this presentation. But eye protection is easy as safety glasses. You can get the safety glasses that have the side protection that keeps the splash out. Most of the glasses fit tight to your face below, and also fit padded against your forehead, so that when you sweat, you don't have material running back down into your eyes. If you had a splash on your forehead and run down, regular eyeglasses won't count, but these will as eye protection. And you can get these, in all kinds of tinting. You can get them mirrored, so they look like regular sunglasses, but they are, pesticide safety glasses. Now, for eye protection to continue, you also have shields. So this is a shield that will help you with splash, and it's really good to use when mixing and loading. We don't usually use this during the application, but this is more for mixing and loading. So if you had a glug of material go into a sprayer and it splash back, if you had a puncture when you're doing triple rinse and then rinseate blows up in your face, this is a good way to prevent that from happening. So next is, we talked about gloves. So this is a nitrile glove. You can buy them in boxes. This is a 6 or 8 mil nitrile glove, little heavier, a little thicker than you would use, say, the dentist. Actually, this one is actually for tattoo artists. It's pretty thick, so it's got a lot more resistant to punctures or tears. So this is a pretty good product. This size here. This is the 4 mil, which is a lot smaller. This is your standard ones. And if you're allergic to latex or powder, just like they say, with doctors' offices, you can get the gloves to match whatever your needs are. Lots of dealers that sell them. So after that, we would talk about maybe dust mask. This is a dust mask that's very good to use, especially if someone's working with grain bins. If they're working in livestock where they're cleaning out, material, clean out old hay barn or something like that, where it gets real dusty and may have some mold. But this has good filters that can be changed and thrown away, and you can keep reusing it. It's very comfortable. It does have a nose piece. It's basically a half face. Very comfortable. The escalator exhales air really quick, so that you can actually breathe and get full breaths back in. So they are nice, and it's got a view with the mesh on the outside, so you can see, actually how much material is, as it's starting to discolor. We really don't recommend you to wait to change anything, dust mask or respirator cartridge, when it starts to make you feel tired and you feel like you're having to pull air through. We want you to change them a lot quicker than that. Because when you're gasping and pulling a spent cartridge, you could be actually starting to pick up pesticides, and you're pulling so hard, you're pulling extra material in. So we don't want that to happen. We do have the half face respirators. We have pre-filters on them. So it's usually a cotton cover that catches the dust part, and then the next cleans the air out with either carbon or other materials. And it also has an escalator in the front. So when you maintain these, we wipe them out. You can see there's lots of little parts that fit your face, and you're going to have to wipe inside all the folds to get that out. No one wants to wear a dirty respirator. If it was contaminated before in the past, and you pick it up and decide to use it, someone could have left a dirty one there. So before you use, always inspect it, and don't take for granted they're always clean, and make sure you're not putting a dirty respirator back on. Something, I'm not just talking dirt, I'm talking contaminated with chemical. Because if dirt's there and sweat left over, then there's a good sign that they are doing something with pesticides, and it's still mixed in with that dirty material. And once you put it on, then it can go in through your skin. Now, I just pointed at my face and it reminded me to tell you that you need to be clean shaven. I do fit testing for producers, especially if they're doing fumigation or special projects that are required to have a fit test. And so You've got to be clean shaven to get a good seal on your face. If you do a fit test, then I can tell you whether that mask is good for you to have as your own, and you can get a certification letter with that. It says, this is my respirator, this is the type I use, and I'm certified for it. I think I've got 5 different ones that I'm certified on that actually are a good fit, and I can get good protection with several different types of respirators. But especially if you've been shaving, it makes sure it's a whole lot better than someone trying to cover a beard with it. I have seen a few mustaches that have done okay, some smaller ones, and maybe just a goatee, have passed because you're getting it all inside. But anything that touches that seal is what we want to, prevent. Then we have the full face respirator. The reason I left it in the bag is to show you the best way to store it. So if you've got one, just like mine, I keep it in a plastic bag so it's not contaminated, it's not dusty, dirty, doesn't get scratched. You want to protect that lens on the front, because the lens is how you see. And if you scratch this up, you can't see when you're using it, and it's already going to be bad enough if you're in a real hot conditions that you could get fog in here. These are the cartridges. Always buy the correct ones. We want ones that, the label will tell you which ones to get, but most of the time it's organic vapors that we're trying to get rid of to filter out. So these cartridges are certified for organic vapors. And so, you want the right one to fit your respirator. Now, once you've spent a cartridge and it looks dirty on the outside, and you've used it for several hours, it's probably spent, it's full, it's done its job. You don't want to extend it anymore. You can look through the vents here and see if it's discolored, because it's going to look dirty. But not all of them, are going to look dirty when they're spent. So a lot of them you can actually, start smelling and picking up material from it, because it's trapped so much material in here. It's got a carbon filter inside. So, but if you're starting to breathe heavy, but basically it's on time. If it's a couple of hours, we don't have a lot of jobs we wear them all day long in agriculture. We usually just wearing them at mixing and loading. We may be wearing them when we were doing a repair on a piece of equipment. We never want to think about it, but this also can be used in a rescue situation. So if you've got an employee that's had a leak and it's still spraying or spilling, you put your respirator on to get that person out as fast as you can. And that's why you keep it close, so you don't lose any time. You can pull on your respirator and take care of somebody really quick, because you don't want to add yourself to the casualties. So you want to make sure you're protected to get that person out, and you can't help somebody if you get succumbed by the vapors of a pesticide. Now, for a good test, contact someone that does fit testing. And like myself, I was in the fire service, and so we had done a lot with that. And then I took training, to be a tester. But the best way to put on a respirator, is the chin method. So you always put your chin in the little cup here for the chin, and put that in, and you push it against your face. Kind of hard to do this on video, but you put it against your face and you have a feel, and then you have tabs on here. So these are the tabs that pull the actual straps. So you put your chin in first, and then you pull each strap on the top first. So you pull your top ones first, and it comes to your skin, and then you pull your side ones up to come around the back of your neck. Don't pull extremely hard. Pull till it first starts to firm up on your face. So it'll be resting against your face. You'll have your nose plate, nose cushion in here, and you got your face inside, and you've got a good seal against your skin. So you can pull the straps over the front, and then you put it on your face, nice and snug. It's hard to talk to you with that, but then you pull it right over the top of your head. This loop here in the bottom of your strap, pull that over your head, and then you gradually pull them up, but you pull 2 at a time on each side and pull it up tight against your face. Snug at first, and then you tighten them up a little more. Now, if you pull too hard, you're going to crimp that gasket around your face, and you're going to cause air holes. So what we do is we get it nice and firm, and then you can do a positive pressure actually test on your respirator. And you can put it on your face, put your hands over the respirators and seal them off, and then try to breathe, and it will suck to your face. and that'll tell you you've got negative pressure and it's actually working real well. And I'll do that when I do a certification for you. I'll have positive and negative pressure for the respirator. Maybe a lot more information you want to know about a respirator, but I want that's a good piece of equipment that you need to have in good working order. Then to follow up with gloves again, one more time, I forgot to tell you about rubber gloves. Come in all shapes and sizes and thicknesses. These are chemical resistant, and you can get them all the way up to your elbow. And they have some that come up to your shoulder if you want them that long. But these rubber gloves are really good to have on hand. Tyvek suits cover you up. They are water resistant. They can be hot, but you need to use them if you're going to be exposed, to your skin all over your body. Water resistant boots are always good to have. And anything, if you're applying pesticides above you, say if you're spraying trees and stuff, so you do have to protect your eyes. You got more chance of falling material back on you. You can use a hard hat because it is water resistant. We have Tyvek hoods on some of them that you can pull the Tyvek hood over yourself and then put on a full face respirator, and you can really protect yourself really good from falling and floating contaminants. So, check the precautionary statement on your label. Always contact an extension agent when you have questions. We're always able to help. The label is a great resource, and then go to reliable sources on the websites. From our sister organizations has some tips too with, other land grant universities have good pesticide use tips too. And then VDAX is a wealth of knowledge online on their website, and we also have a website online too for pesticide safety for Virginia Tech and Extension. Hope this has been an informative section for you. Good luck with getting your permits. You got questions, like I said, talk to an extension agent, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.